I'm joined by Toby McCartney, CEO of MacRebur, the plastic road company. Thank you so much for joining me, Toby.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. And where are you taking this call from?
I'm in Bonnie, Scotland at the moment, just south of a place called Lockerbie, which is known really for the wrong reasons. It's about 35 years ago, a Pan Am flight crashed in Lockerbie, and
Oh,
it's known for those reasons. But we're trying to put Lockerbie on the map again with MacRebur. So hopefully
nice.
people will talk about Lockerbie being the home of MacRebur rather than the place that the plane crashed.
Yeah, worthy cause
Yeah.
to do it for. And so the reason I wanted to have you on the show is because there is so much plastic waste in the world that some of it can be recycled, but a lot of it actually just can't be recycled for one reason or another. And it ends up going directly to landfill or it gets incinerated. Essentially, it's just waste. And there's really not a whole lot to do with it, except for when you come along.
That's right.
And what you do is you take this unrecyclable plastic and you actually turn it into something really cool, which are roads, hence the name, the Plastic Road Company. So could you please summarize in just a couple sentences, as though an 8-year-old were listening, and that's code for me, in just a couple sentences, what exactly MacRebur does?
Yeah. Well, exactly like you say, really. We only use waste, we're classed as waste, so waste
Hmm.
plastics. These are plastics that are destined for landfill or for incineration. Most of the plastics actually that we have on Earth, plastics have been around since the 1920s, but really made it into industry in the 1950s, just after the war. Well, they still exist. They're still here. They're still on Earth. And most of them now classed as waste. So
Hmm.
we're producing all of this plastic, but we have a real problem with what to do with it at the end of its life cycle. We're able to take that plastic, process it, and mix it with a very much like a cake mix. When you make a cake, you need a certain number of eggs, and you need flour, and you need milk, and you've got to add that in at the right time. And then you mix it together and you produce a sponge cake, let's say. Well, that's really what we do with plastics. So there's various forms of different plastics. So, a bottle is made up of 3 different types of plastic. Most people see that as just one. But we take all of those waste plastics, we're able to process them, mix them together, and then we use them to replace or part of the bitumen, which is the black oily stuff that you get in an asphalt or to you and I, a road mix. And we do that because it enhances the road that the plastics go into. When you swap part of the bitumen with plastics, it does a lot of things to the road to make it a better road.
So essentially, you're using plastic as the glue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So road is essentially made up of stone, or we call them aggregates because we like to make things posher than they really are. But made
Very
up of
posh.
stone, and that stone is stuck together with a glue, and that glue just happens to be bitumen, which is a fossil fuel. It's taken out of the ground, and it's the end part of the oil that's taken out of the ground, and then the fuel oils are taken off, and the
Mhm.
oils that are used to make plastics are taken off, and then you have the residual oil, which is the bitumen, which is then engineered to use as a glue in a road. And we found that we can replace part of that bitumen with our polymers, with our plastics taken from the waste stream to make a better glue, really.
Yeah, that's really cool. And there's so much that we'll unpack from those few sentences you said. And before we jump into the specifics of it, because it is really fascinating. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to go through. Um, just to level set and get some context, and I think you've already said it, but just to be very clear, why is the work that you're doing in terms of MacRebur and making roads out of plastic, why is that good for the environment?
Yeah, well, I think it's essential for the environment. You alluded to it earlier when you said that some plastic is recycled. Well, actually, the recycling rates or levels that you see out, the percentages that people talk about, they're not actually true. Most of the waste plastics classed as waste are include the plastics that people think are being recycled, but most of it's not.
Mm,
Most of it we're not able to recycle around the world because we don't have the technology to, what tends to be the problem is when you take a plastic bottle, let's say, as an example, and you want to recycle that, usually that's to produce another plastic bottle. So it's a food grade type of plastic that you're taking, and you're trying to produce a new food grade type of plastic from it. Now, what happens to plastic is, the bottle top is a different polymer, a different type of plastic to the bottle itself, which is a different type of plastic to the label that goes around it. And then you have to add in 50% new produced plastic into that waste or that recycled plastic to produce a new bottle. So A, it's very expensive to separate, and then B, it's not really good for the environment to recycle it in that way because you're having to produce 50% new plastic to add in.
yeah.
We're able to take all of those plastics and process them, and we don't have to separate them like a food grade because we're not producing a food grade plastic at the end of it.
Hmm.
We're producing hydrocarbon oil-based compound from those plastics. So it's good for the environment because we're taking directly from the waste stream. So it's no longer sitting in landfill or floating in our oceans or sinking in our oceans, as some of it is.
Yeah.
It's no longer littering our environment. It can be used to produce a better road. And for every ton of bitumen that we replace, we save roughly a ton of carbon emissions. So we're not only using up the waste plastics, we're saving carbon emissions, and we all know how bad for the environment the carbon emissions are. So
Yeah.
it's multiple pronged, really, is our business. It's not just using up waste plastics, but it's also bettering the roads that we drive on, and
Mhm.
it's reducing carbon emissions. So there's many ways it's better for the environment.
That's awesome, and we'll go through the benefits as well because I think reading on your website, there's a lot of really cool benefits that come from it, which certainly want to go through. I'm just so curious to know where exactly do you get your plastic? I mean, do you basically have like contracts with waste companies, or how
Yeah.
does it work?
Yeah, so we tend to use the waste companies, the waste managers. There is some certain degree of separation for the plastics that we use, and the reason for that is, and we use waste managers to do that rather than
Mhm.
ourselves. So we never have to heat the plastics or do any of the separation ourselves. We get the plastics crumbed for us in various different streams. 60% of our plastics comes from industry. So that's it might be a plastic manufacturer that has a waste stream that they're sending to landfill or to be incinerated.
Mhm.
Um, Other plastic comes from local authority, so that might be the plastics that people throw away in their bins that is destined for landfill or incineration in most
Yeah.
cases. So we gather that plastic in. We go through waste managers. They have some certain degree of separation for us, and then they crumb it and they put it into like a rice grain crumb, and we then blend it together. So all of we call them factories, but really what
Mhm.
they are blending houses. We blend the different polymers together to form the mixes that we have.
And so being in Scotland, it's like a Scotch blend.
Like a Scotch blend, yeah. So we essentially have the Coca-Cola's syrup, if that makes sense. So we don't make asphalt, we don't lay roads. We have an additive at the end of it that goes into asphalt. So the end result, the asphalt, is not anything to do with us. It's
Yeah.
we just simply have the additive that goes into that asphalt to enhance it.
So yeah, it really is like syrup. I remember I used to work at a pizza shop, and one of my jobs was to replace the syrup. Like if, like you said, Coca-Cola, it would run out. It was these
Yeah,
plastic bags, and it was just full of basically like, I mean, it really is syrup, but
yeah,
the water itself is provided on site. meaning Coca-Cola in that sense doesn't actually do the water or the
Yeah,
actual they just they literally just deliver these syrup bags.
yeah.
So you're essentially a asphalt glue company.
That's kind of it. Yeah, yeah. Well, we always describe ourselves as an environmental company. We
Hmm.
have the benefit of what we're recycling is enhancing the roads that we drive on. So, our company is based around trying to solve two world issues.
Yeah.
We call it the plastic epidemic on one side, and the amount of waste plastics that we have to deal with. But then on the other side, the benefit of the enhanced roads. So but again, we have very little to do with the roads. To be honest, it's all the plastic recycling, and what our company does is form a new style of recycling.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So so today's Wednesday, which means tomorrow morning is Thursday, and that's recycling day where I'm based here in
Okay.
London.
Yeah.
So I have a plastic bag full of plastic and a little bit of cardboard. I'm ashamed to admit, but I do have plastic.
Yeah.
So is that, or can any of that go to you? Because I've recently read that a shockingly low amount of plastic is actually recycled.
Yeah.
Um,
It is shocking as well. Yeah.
it's like 2% or something. I mean, I
Yeah.
might be wrong. I hope I'm
No,
wrong. I
you're
hope
you're
it's
you're just about right. Yeah.
yeah.
That's not what people are claiming, but you're about right with that.
So I mean, it's almost like, can I just donate my plastic to you?
Yes, you could. We tend to, as best we can, we use local waste plastics for local roads. That's not always possible because so in the UK, our factory is based up in Lockerbie.
Right.
So it's very expensive to send London's waste plastics to Lockerbie,
Yeah.
have it processed to then send it back down. Unfortunately, that is the way it works at the moment because we don't have the volume of work in London. We do have a lot of work, but there isn't the volume of roads that are going down as plastic roads yet that mean that we would set up a factory in London.
Hmm.
So whereas when you go to say San Diego or San Francisco or Alabama or various other places like Saudi Arabia and Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, there's enough volume of work there with the roads that go down that we are setting up factories for them to process their own waste for their own roads.
Wow.
But the UK, we're a little bit behind with the mark, so far.
It's a process of education, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
Um, so in terms of the benefits, because you're saying that there's a lot of good stuff, and first question that comes to mind, and I'm sure it doesn't really work this way, but you're saying like places like Saudi Arabia where it gets really hot. Is there a chance that it, the roads can melt if it's made from plastic?
Yeah, well, the roads, if it's not made from plastic, yeah, that's a big problem in hotter countries. So what actually happens is the bitumen that's in the mix, it melts at around 60 degrees Celsius. So when you get unfortunately for a road, it's black in color, and so it gets hotter quicker
Yeah, that's
than
true.
it retains the heat
Mhm.
more than the air temperature. So it reaches that 60 degrees Celsius very quickly. And in places like Saudi, Australia, even in London, when the temperature reaches 60 degrees on the roads, which is often in the summer, the
Oh,
bitumen starts to melt. And then what happens is we drive vehicles over that melting bitumen and we form in the roads what we call in the trade a rut, which is to you and I, it's a dip in the road. And
mhm.
sometimes you'll feel it, especially over in the States, when you're driving on the highways, the freeways, however they call them, we call them motorways.
Yeah,
But when
freeways,
you're
yeah.
driving on those roads, sometimes your tires can get stuck in those ruts. Now, when those ruts reach more than 4 millimeters, they start to pothole and it starts to degrade the road. Now, when you add polymers in there, our polymers don't melt till around 120 degrees Celsius. So when the roads get hotter than 120 degrees Celsius, we've got more to worry about than the roads. But it actually stops the bitumen melting quite as quickly as it would normally under those temperatures. and therefore you reduce
Interesting.
that rutting, and therefore you reduce the deformation of that road in that way.
So, yeah, I was reading that your roads last longer by a lot, and they're stronger as well.
Yeah, it's a bold claim, and it's not really a claim that we can necessarily make
Hmm.
as a company that is essentially a recycling company, but under lab test conditions, because we're not in control of the asphalt at the end of the result, and we're also not in control of any of the laying that goes on with that asphalt from the contractors. But under lab test conditions, when you add plastics, polymers into a road, and it's tested out against certain tests that we have to test every road against. The asphalt with the plastics in lasts a lot longer than the asphalt without them in. And so it's, you can equate that to the roads lasting longer, but there's a million things that happen to a road when it's laid and when it's made. It's just we understand from the mounds of research that we've got, and we can show that the roads are far enhanced with plastics in them than without.
Yeah. And so how much plastic goes into, like, you have this really cool calculator in terms of,
Yeah,
on your website, which, I could share the screen, and actually, why don't we just do that very quickly?
yeah,
For the people who are watching, there's this calculator here where you can just start typing in all sorts of numbers and getting, the
that's
number of
it.
plastic
That's good.
bags,
Yeah,
as well as the amount of CO2 that you would offset.
yeah,
So is there, I mean, without just sitting here and tapping away, which I already did, for a while, are there any kind of key numbers that we can sort of see? Because there is, like, the width and length of the actual road.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
someone who's not really in the industry and doesn't really know, standard sizes.
Yeah, it's easier if you go to you see that so everything in construction is weighed out by tonnage. So if you click onto that tonnage calculator there,
Yeah.
so if you take a ton of asphalt, that will resurface an area of, let's say, 10 meters squared, an average, because obviously every road is different. You get different depths, different widths,
Yeah.
different lanes. But if you just look at 1 ton of asphalt, that will contain roughly 3 to 10 kilograms of waste plastics. So that's the equivalent of, as you can see there, with 1 ton of asphalt for a 10-meter square area, you're looking at 857 equivalent plastic bags, and saving a carbon emission offset of around 9 to 10 kilograms.
Hmm.
So most of the roads that we get are, the smallest amount really is like 100 tons. More so if you go over to the States for, if you take a car park as an example,
Yeah.
you're looking at laying, maybe 1,000, 2,000 tons of asphalt. So
Wow.
as you can see, that's where it sort of mounts up.
Whoops.
And yeah, so the bottom bit there is just to depict the picture is mounds of plastic. So it's really difficult to sort of to imagine, 2,000 tons of asphalt being over, nearly 2 million plastic bags. It's difficult to imagine what 2 million plastic bags actually looks like, but
Yeah.
compared to the garbage truck that you see down on the bottom right there, um, it's 3 times what you would fit into and that's just in plastic bags, so it's huge. Not only are we using up that waste plastic, but we're offsetting those carbon emissions, and that now all over the world we have carbon taxes. So it's as we should do, of course, but
Yeah.
we're trying to, 200 local authorities in the UK have declared a climate emergency. They're trying to get themselves down to a 0% carbon emission. They've
Hmm.
got a long, long way to go, but this gives them a viable option for them to be able to do that.
So with just one car park, so you're saying, like, an average size car park in the U.S., and that's for us Americans, that would be parking lot. For anyone who may be confused by that, 2,000 tons. would save about 1.7 million plastic bags, and it could potentially offset around 18,000 kilograms of CO2.
Yeah, that's right.
So offsetting means that because you're not using bitumen or this oil product, and the processing that goes along with that, essentially, that's not going into the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so the first carbon saving is when we take the concept of plastic, so it being produced, it then being sent to or destined for landfill or for
Mhm.
incineration, which is at the time that we get it. So if we take the birth of that plastic bottle, for an example, and then into it goes into our mix. We then process it. We add in other polymers. Then it's bagged up. It's then moved to the asphalt manufacturer, where it's then processed and laid down onto a road. That's compared to the bitumen that it goes in to replace. They're the carbon savings. So, when we take the concept of oil, of the bitumen, which is fracked from the ground,
Yeah.
it's then, there's various parts of it that are taken away. And then that bitumen is then you put into an asphalt. When we look at the comparison, they're the carbon savings right there. And that actually, the 2,000 tons, there was a car park that went down with Tesco's Superstore um,
Mhm.
uh, just the other week down south near to London, and there was more than 2,000 tons just put into that new car park. So
Wow.
it's the car parks in the States are obviously much, well, I say obviously, but they're much bigger. I think for every one person that they have in the States, there are 19 car park spaces. So that's where our business is really.
It's shocking that I'm originally from Los Angeles,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
it's despite the fact that there are 19 car parks per or parking spaces per person, you still can't find any space.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, yeah, we have, I think we're into negative now. So I think it's every three people, we have one car parking space in the
Oh
UK.
wow.
You still can't find a car parking space here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's good business for you there. And in terms of, I mean, what one thing that I can just instantly hear people saying, and it's even a thought that crossed my mind is, what about microplastics? I
Yeah,
mean, what if it rains and, doesn't that, because that's what's happening, right? When there's plastic sitting around, it starts to break down.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a really important question. And it's an important point to raise. So I think we've got to go back to where these plastics are coming from. So, because microplastics is a buzzword, and we'll
Yes,
come on
indeed.
to that. Um, so first of all, microplastics are, people don't think about a plastic bottle being a microplastic, but in our world, it really is. It's just a
Yeah.
massive microplastic. So when that gets into the environment, it's a problem. When a plastic bag is floating in the oceans and a turtle swims by, it doesn't know the difference between a plastic bag and a jellyfish. So microplastics are absolutely a problem and a horrendous problem, as are giant bits of plastics that are floating in our
Yeah.
oceans. It's
That's
just
a good
that
point. Yeah.
yeah, so we're taking those giant bits and then we're turning them. So plastics are all made from hydrocarbons. Bitumen that we put into roads is made from hydrocarbons. And what we do is we take those big bits of plastic and we fully melt them into the hydrocarbons. So the hydrocarbons we melt in to the hydrocarbons that are bitumen. So when you're driving on a plastic road, you're not driving on bottle tops and bottles, and you can't see any plastics, because they've melted into the rest
Yeah.
of the mix.
So
So
your tire won't pop on like some random bottle
yeah,
sticking
that's
out
it.
of
Yeah,
the.
it's not a, I think we've done ourselves a disservice by calling them plastic roads, because only a very small percent actually of the asphalt is plastics. Um, Now, what you will have from any road is you will have a tiny degree already without plastics. So forget the plastics for a moment. When a rubber tire, runs on an asphalt mix, you're getting microplastics from those tires. So those little bits of rubber that come off a tire, this is why we need to replace our tires every few years, because those little bits of rubber tire rub off the tire, they go on to the asphalt, it then rains, and they get washed into our oceans, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
And a tiny, tiny proportion on the surface of that road, because remember, you're only driving on the surface, you're not driving on the underneath.
Yeah.
A tiny part of that bitumen is rubbed off the surface stone. So the tiny, you sort of polish with your tires the tiny part of bitumen, and that goes back into our environment. But it comes from our environment. So that bitumen that rubs off goes back into the environment. It goes back into the soil. It goes back into the so there's been mounds of research that shows that is not a toxin, that bitumen. It's an engineered product. Now all we're doing is taking those plastics and we're mixing that with that bitumen. So there are no microplastics present. There's no little bits of plastic that are being rubbed off. And when we compare it to something like the bitumen that's already been rubbed off, there's no other toxins that are released. It goes back into the ground. Those hydrocarbons that come from the ground are mixed back with the hydrocarbons that come from the ground. They go back into the ground. And so there's not like little bits of plastic floating in the oceans or in rivers for our fish to eat, and then we eat our fish. The microplastic problem is huge. And the more plastic that we put into our environment, the worse it gets. We're taking out of our environment and turning it back into the hydrocarbons that go into a road. Until we get rid of all roads, we're not going to have any, we're always going to have the problem of, until we have flying cars, we're never going to get rid of the problem of those particles of rubber coming off our tires. We're never going to get rid of the problems of some of that surface bitumen going back into our rivers and our oceans. But there are zero microplastics, little bits of plastic sitting in a plastic road. We've got toxicity reports, microplastic reports. As I say, we're an environmental company,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be good for us to be putting plastics back into the environment. We're taking them out,
Yeah.
processing them in a very different way. But one of the unsung heroes, I think, of the asphalt world or the construction industry is what we call RAP, recycled asphalt. And what happens at the end of a life cycle of a road, so that's the stone and that bitumen that's attached in, and now a plastic road, at the end of the life cycle, so once it starts to pothole and the end of it, at the life cycle of that road, we can plane it all back up, reheat it, add more waste plastics in, and then lay it all straight back down.
So it's like true recycling.
It's complete recycling. And as far as we know, the plastics that we add into those roads to enhance that bitumen will last for around 500 years. And I hope, well, we'll not be around, but I hope by that time we'll not be making asphalt anyway.
Yeah.
And we'll hopefully have solved the plastic epidemic that we're having to live through.
Yeah.
So
well, that's really exciting.
It's a complete circular economy that we're building.
Yeah, that term has been kind of knocking about in my mind the whole time you've been speaking, is circular economy. It really does take out the it's not linear.
Yeah.
You really are just, rather than throwing it away and just letting it stay there, you're completely reusing it and putting it into something else.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that since the 1920s, when plastic was first produced with Bakelite, that plastic is still here on Earth today. Every particle of that plastic. But what we have is the ability to reuse it and to turn it back into its original form, the hydrocarbons, to enhance the roads. It's so simple, but yet so genius almost.
It really is. And I mean, as part of that, do you ever source, or would you ever consider sourcing plastic from the ocean?
Yeah, we do. We do. It's unfortunately at this point in time, it's very expensive for us to take that plastic and for us to reuse it.
Yeah.
We're always under the the cusp, if you like, of, so all of our products come at, we sell our products less than the cost of the bitumen that we go in to replace. With our business model,
Makes
we've
sense.
got to make everything a win-win, you see.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's got to be a win-win for the asphalt manufacturers. It's got to be a win-win for the local authorities. It's got to be a win-win for the end user that has the plastic road or car park that goes down.
Hmm.
And of course, it's got to be a win-win for the environment. So the plastic that's taken from the oceans at the moment is very expensive for us to get hold of when we use it as part of our mix. But having said that, what we've started is what we call the MacRebur Foundation. There are already groups of litter pickers or pickups that exist all around the world,
Hmm.
and we sponsor some of those litter pickups. We give them the high vis vests and the hard hats and the grabbers and the rest of it, and they go to sites like river courses and estuaries and fields that have plastic in. They'll pick out the plastics that we want, they'll bag it up in a MacRebur bag, send it to us, and we can then use that as part of our mix that goes down into the road. So
Oh, that's
we're
fantastic.
working on it. We're getting there.
Yeah.
It's slow at the moment because we're relying on those already existing litter pickups, but
Hmm.
we're getting there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure what's cool about that is it gives them a purpose. If they're already doing it, now they have like a specific thing rather than just we're picking this up and throwing it away.
Yeah,
It's actually, there's a very specific cause for it.
yeah.
You mentioned win, 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 win. There's so many different wins here. Um, I'm surprised that, you know, a huge city like London, I mean, they're doing construction outside my flat here, and there's they're tearing up the road. How is it? Where, I guess, are you seeing sort of pushback or perhaps less interest if everyone's winning and if um, basically companies are saving money and they don't even need to resurface the roads as often because the roads last longer and there, I mean, there's just it seems like the advantages and the benefits are so numerous. Why wouldn't someone just say, let's do it?
Again, we ask that question every day. Um, there's a huge amount of legislation and insurance and risk elements and uh, in the UK. We have more in the UK than I think anywhere else that we work, anywhere else abroad. We have more roads down. In fact, we got roads down in Bahrain quicker than we got roads down in Scotland, the very place that we live in. We've got more roads and car parks and asphalt down in the United States, or even in Australia or
Mhm.
Turkey or Eastern Europe, Slovakia and Slovenia, than we've got in the whole
Wow.
of the UK. And it's because, well, there's a number of reasons. The first is the UK standards are they I wouldn't be so bad if all the roads that went down were like gold and they lasted forever and they were all brilliant. But as we know, as drivers, that's
Mm.
not the case. But the legislation that we have to go through, and we lobby in through the MPs, but we work with the large asphalt manufacturers as well um, to to try and get our products in. It's just a case of time, really, with the UK. And most of our efforts now, because the UK is so slow, we have a lot of private work in the UK. So the private work's fantastic for us, the large supermarket chains, some
Like
golf
car parks.
courses where they've got car parks.
Right.
But the local authorities, it's slow going.
Mm.
The Department for Transport has given Cumbria County Council quite a large sum of money to prove out that plastic roads are a viable option, not just from a performance perspective, but also from how much of Cumbria's waste plastics can we actually use in their roads. So we've got about 45 weeks of this project that was a 90-week project left, just to prove out the whole business model and the concept. At the end of those 45 weeks, what we're hoping for is the Department for Transport and DEFRA to sort of look at what we've got and our research and say, okay, this is now a viable option for the UK, and then it's a case of setting up our manufacturing in every site that we can get the
Mm.
manufacturing into. Um,
So
it
while
needs
all
to
that's
happen, you know. It's
yeah.
in the press just this week there was Malaysia have sent back, I think there was 150 containers
Hmm.
of waste plastics back to the countries that they have sent them there, that they've claimed money for recycling, but they've sent them to Malaysia in some, I think, but anyway, 41 containers of the 150 came from the UK. So we obviously
Sizable.
have a massive problem, but you know, we need people to own up to that problem and
Yeah.
find a viable solution, and that's what we've got. But until they do that, we're stuck in this political mess, and no
Yeah.
one's moving until the end of this project. So we'll see what happens.
Well, so that's you've got less than a year remaining on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Would
And you know, in truth, you know, some of the local authorities, if we go over to Yorkshire, you know, they're a lot of, you know, certainly in North Yorkshire, a lot of their roads now will contain plastics, and new roads that they're putting down. We've got some fantastic companies that will be they buy in our products, they use it to replace their bitumen, and those
awesome.
roads are going down all the time. And we're working with 23 local authorities in the UK that are starting to see the light. But it's
Oh,
been an
that's fantastic.
education first, and then the business sort of has come second.
Well, yeah, I think it sounds like you just need your foot in the door really, and then you can really, really do it. This is maybe a bit of a weird question, but are you concerned at any point that you'll run out of plastic to use?
I wish, you know, from my environmental perspective, I wish that we would run out of plastic. But we worked out that if we just used the amount of waste plastics from Cumbria, just from one county, we'd have enough waste plastics to source for the whole of the UK roads. And if we
Wow,
just use the whole of the UK plastics, waste plastics, we'd have enough plastics, not just for the UK, but for the whole of Europe. So the plastic epidemic is much bigger than anyone could could ever account for. It's horrendous. It's we are surrounded by waste plastics, and nobody knows what to do with them.
that's mental.
It's shocking. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah.
So,
It's crazy, and it's frustrating as well. You know, when you hear that it's been sent to a beautiful place like Malaysia, I think that should be criminal. I'm sure it is criminal, but
yeah.
we have to look at what we're doing, and you know, very quickly find solutions to the problems that we've got.
Wow. I mean, these containers that are being sent back to the UK, do you have any interest in claiming them and saying we'll take it and
That'd be great. Yeah, it would be great. But I think I think what we need to do really, as the plastic industry needs to do, is work out. Um, you know, for many recyclers, we have these things called PRNs. They're package recycling notes. It's
Mhm.
basically like farming subsidiaries. So for every claim of recycling, there's money there, and I think
Really?
we need to look at where this money's been claimed, and what actually is being recycled, because we know, like you say, 2% of it is actually recycled, but there's many more claims of more recycling done. And now that we're seeing the plastic being returned from places like Malaysia, that I think some plastic authorities have said, well, or plastic companies have said they've recycled it, but actually they've sent it abroad. That's not recycling.
Let someone else deal with the issue.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot more research needing to be done with actually how do we sort out this mess, and what is actually happening with the UK's recycling.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I mean, with those kind of calculations you did, if the UK's plastic can do the roads for all of Europe, I would imagine taking it further, all of Europe's plastic could probably lay the roads for like
Yeah, the whole of the
ton.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Unfortunately, though, every country has a waste plastic problem.
Yeah, and you
So
haven't even
yeah,
mentioned the US in that.
no one wants anyone else's plastic.
Yeah,
But so we've got to find a solution, and incinerating it just isn't that solution.
no.
It's not a long-term solution.
And so just to be clear, these plastics, when you're saying like the UK's plastic, this is new stuff. Basically, you're capturing it from waste companies, meaning you're not going into landfills and pulling out plastic from there. This is just new plastic, me recycling my
Yeah.
hummus tub.
Yeah, we want to get it. Well, if it is going to be recycled, we don't touch it, because that's obviously a good thing,
Yeah,
or relatively good. You've got to add new plastics into it, but
right.
yeah. Aside from that, we don't go into landfill sites in this country. We're not allowed in.
Mm,
We get it just before it reaches landfill. So 60% of it comes from industry. So like I say, that's a company that is sending a certain amount of their waste to landfill, because now there's a landfill tax bill, so they have to pay
okay.
to send it there. So
So these are minor little things that are being done to kind of try to incentivize companies to be a bit more
that's right.
conscientious.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, so if they give it to you, would the companies save money in that sense?
yes, exactly. Yeah,
So that's their incentive to go. Um,
yeah.
and so your clients are road makers or asphalt makers.
Yes, yeah. The companies that we sell our plastics to are either oil companies like Saudi Aramco,
Hmm.
because they produce now a waste polymer modified bitumen. So they pre-mix our plastics in with their bitumen to produce an enhanced bitumen before it goes then down into the roads. Um, our main customers, though, here in the UK are the asphalt manufacturers that are making the asphalt that they put down onto the roads.
Gotcha. And since a road, other than private, um, a road is a public use, it's a little bit more complicated because you actually, that's what you're saying about getting local councils and the government involved because they need to approve.
That's it. Yeah, with any DFT, Department for Trans. So the way it works in the UK, the Department for Transport basically owns the roads, the highways,
Hmm.
and there's Highways England as well, which owns some of the motorways, etc. But the local roads, like you might have around you in London, it would be Transport for London,
Yeah.
and then the local authorities then they maintain those roads. So we stimulate the growth through the local authorities so that they can say, okay, this road here can be a plastic road and this road here can be a plastic road. And then most of the local authorities don't have their own team of they don't have their own manufacturing plant or their own construction company. So they go to the likes of, without mentioning any names, the
Sure.
large manufacturing companies or the construction companies, and we sell our products to them.
So you're actually, and that makes sense why it's such a slow process because you're essentially trying to push through government and trying to get
That's it.
them to not only understand but also agree with it and see that it's beneficial. And that can
Yeah,
take,
well, the standards. So every road has a standard to it, a British
yeah.
and European standard. And when we go to the asphalt manufacturers and say, with the Cumbria County Council want this road, we've got to, because the standards don't say you can use waste plastics in roads yet.
Mm,
And therefore,
okay.
we come outside of that standard. So the liability goes then on to the asphalt manufacturers with their material, and then the construction teams with their construction. So we've got to bypass all of those controls until we can get the Department for Transport to say waste plastics in roads are a viable option for our roads, and change those standards.
So that could hopefully be done in about a year once
We
this,
hope so. Yeah.
yeah, well, best of luck.
Yeah.
So
But
what,
all over the rest of the world, if you go to the States or Saudi
mhm,
or Australia, New Zealand, they're already used to, so putting plastics into roads isn't anything new abroad. They've been putting rubber into roads in the States since the 70s. They have the oil companies like Shell and Total. They produce a brand new plastic. It's called SBS to
mhm,
produce a polymer modified bitumen. So about 20% of the roads that we drive on now in the UK already contain a plastic, but it's a brand new plastic that's produced for the oil companies to produce a polymer modified bitumen. All we do is we can replicate the same results with waste plastics
Oh, I
rather than
see.
producing anything new.
You're literally making the exact same thing, just using from
Exactly
a different
right.
spot.
Yeah, so it's not a giant leap for mankind to put waste plastics in the road. You know,
A small step, yeah.
it's not rocket science. It's only a small step.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's so frustrating for us. You know.
And in the meantime, you're able to work at least in other countries like the US and Bahrain
Yeah,
and New Zealand, et cetera.
yeah,
So at least there you're proving the model. You're able to show that in other countries it's working well.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
what's the oldest road that you have laid
Yeah, so
down?
this is some of our upfall now, downfall really. So the oldest road is at just over 3 years now.
Hmm.
We put down a control. So all of our testing's been independent. So we haven't done our own testing. We've gone to we call UCAS accredited labs. And so when we put down a road, we put down our products and then a stretch on the same road made by the same manufacturer, laid by the same construction company, an asphalt without any of our waste plastics in. And then we test them both out. We take what they call cores, so parts of that road, we take it down to a lab and we test it out. Now,
Hmm.
the first road that went down was in Cumbria, near to Penrith. They were having to resurface that every 6 to 9 months. Our road, the bit of our road where the plastics in, is still there and it looks fantastic. The bit, the control without any plastic in, has been resurfaced twice and then now having to go and resurface it again.
Wow.
So it's, you know, the proof's in the roads that we've got down. But we unfortunately we can speed up the process in the lab, but we haven't had our roads down for 20 years, so
Right.
we can't claim that they last a lot longer than the roads, other than the claims that we can make from a lab. So but if the UK wishes to wait until we've had a road down for 20 years, then the plastic mound is building up and the roads are worse than they've ever been
Yeah.
before without the plastics in. So that's what we're up against.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, going back to the win-win-win situation here, I mean, when they do finally, the UK, and it sounds like the UK is, like you said, one of the last to possibly adopt this. I mean, the companies are going to end up saving a lot of money, and the councils might as well then. So
Yeah, we
they're,
would hope so.
yeah,
I mean, they'll certainly save with regards to less maintenance on the roads. You know, the 200 local authorities that have claimed, you know, a carbon-free council by 2030 or whenever the date is that they've set, the climate emergency, they'll save on carbon emissions. And the manufacture of the road itself is less when you add in our plastics
yeah,
of that bitumen replacement. Whether those asphalt manufacturers wish to pass that saving on to the local authorities that buy the asphalt or the construction companies is kind of outside of our control, unfortunately.
yeah.
Um, but certainly from a landfill tax bill, we can save the council's money, yeah.
And so, in addition to patiently waiting for the UK to uh, get on board with this, what are sort of the next steps in terms of MacRebur's road plan, for lack of a
Yeah,
better
well,
word, or roadmap?
we're working really well in the States. We had our initial problem was how do we use local waste for local roads, because we're not
Right.
just creating a circular economy, we're creating a local circular economy. That's what's important, really.
Hmm.
So we were shipping our products out to places like San Diego and San Francisco, which didn't make a great deal of sense because we
Right.
were not, you know, the carbon emission reduction wasn't as impactful as if we have local waste for local roads. So we have been setting up our manufacturing plants in various other places. And over the next 3 years, that's what we're focused on, is setting up plants in various different places with partners. We call it an MLA, a manufacturing license agreement,
Hmm.
which includes the manufacturing of our products. It's the secrets, if you like. The only thing that we don't include within that is the activators that go in to make the plastics work with the remaining bitumen. But from that perspective, we can use local waste in local roads, creating a local circular economy. And that's where our focus is. We've got 50 states in the States to get through,
Yeah.
or 40 now, and then we've got Australia still to set up, and we've got a lot of work in South Africa with various distributors that are moving on board with us for manufacturing. So it's
Wow.
building.
Yeah, lots of work ahead and things to get done. And so, in addition to being a plastic superhero and removing plastic from the world, what do you do on a daily basis to be more environmentally friendly that perhaps some of our listeners can do on their own time?
Yeah, well, as best we can. We have a plastic-free home. It's almost impossible, I have to say, and we haven't got a war on plastic. Plastic's a fantastic product. It's versatile and it's
Yeah,
waterproof, and it does so
it's
many things,
incredible,
and
and
it's
it lasts
incredible.
forever, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just what happens to it once we've used it. That's where
Yeah.
we've got the problem. So it's I have two children, 10 and 8, and they're on the plastic epidemic war, trying to reduce the amount of plastic that we use in our household. We have a plastic-free office. It's easy to do when you know how, but it's the simple things like not using plastic straws. If
Yeah.
we go into a restaurant and they give us a plastic straw, we ask them to not, if we're refilling, not to put that plastic straw in it. And educating people on how actually we can recycle those plastics.
Hmm.
My eldest, she's just 10, but she's into art. So any plastics that we do have, she's turning into an art form. She's just produced these plastic sheep. Lockerbie is known for its statues of sheep that we have in Lockerbie, and
Cool.
she's produced these same types of sheep, but out of waste plastics that we collected from our household.
Wow.
So turning something really ugly like waste plastics into something beautiful again. But yeah, it's just it's keeping on the campaign, and it is very much about an education. It's there are different categories of plastic, and it's just educating people on what that means. When
Hmm.
you look at a plastic bottle, it isn't just a plastic bottle. There's different polymers that go into it, and how we can recycle and reuse. We're very much recycling, reusing, and reducing.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way forward to help stop the plastic epidemic.
I think that's a good way to do it. And being mindful, I guess, of what you're buying.
Yeah,
Because you're absolutely right. It's so difficult to avoid just on a day-to-day basis. I
yeah,
mean, no
yeah,
matter how hard you try, unless you completely change your entire lifestyle,
yeah,
it's very, very difficult.
yeah.
Um,
I think it's standing up as well, and when you look at this week's press and you see the stuff that's been sent back from somewhere like Malaysia,
yeah,
that we've got to, some of us have got to stand up and say this isn't on. It's not on that we're doing this. It's
yeah,
we've got to stop, and we need people standing up and sharing this information, and sharing what's possible, not just looking at the problems, but let's think with, use our entrepreneurs mindset, and
yeah.
work out how we can create solutions, not just
Hmm.
always you know focus on the problems. Let's look at how we can say this isn't on, we've got to stop now, and here's a solution.
Yeah.
And the more solutions that we have, the better the world's going to be.
Well, maybe there's a lot of other building materials that we can
Yeah,
make in a
absolutely.
similar way.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a free for all. It's it doesn't matter. You don't have to start your own business in this. You could be working for a company and be the plastic recycler of that company, and come up with solutions for that company or for your office, or
Hmm.
that can reuse the stuff that's coming in, the old plastics that no one else wants.
Yeah.
There's many ways.
It's a great idea. And so for the people who want to learn more about the work you're doing, and get any updates, play with your plastic waste calculator, or watch some of your TED Talks, because we haven't talked about that, but you've done a number of TED Talks, and some of them are very popular. Where can people go to find you?
Yeah, so the best place really is MacRebur.com, where it's MacRebur.com. The reason we're called MacRebur, very simply, and my surname being McCartney, one of my business partners is called Gordon Reed. He's the Ree, and we've got a Nick Burnett. He's the Burr. So it's a Mac, a Ree, and a Burr.
So everyone gets
That's where we
gets to
are.
partake.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, if people have questions or ideas, go to MacRebur.com and let us know. We're creating a network of people that are interested in the same stuff that we're interested in. So it would be good to hear from them.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll be hearing from some of our listeners here. And yeah, Toby, thank you very much. I think we're all really behind the work that you're doing here. I think it's fantastic, and just playing with that calculator for a little bit and seeing that one car part can remove almost was it 2 million plastic bags from going into landfill is very inspiring. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And hopefully you will run out of plastic to use.
I hope so. Well, I hope I do myself out of a job one of these days.
I think we'd all be grateful for that. But best of luck with everything, and yeah, good luck with all your expansion, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for yours. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star rating. And also, please subscribe, whether on your podcast app or on YouTube. And that way you can be the first to know about new episodes. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.